Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome to Marwell Manor Farm. We are here in the south of England, about halfway between Winchester and Southampton, sort of down towards the south coast. And this lovely, quaint little village is home to Marwell Manor Farm. Marwell Manor itself is actually just around the corner, and the Hollisters who own that property have asked us to come in and run their failing farm business for us. A lot of the land around here is in desperate need of work. The previous owner, or the previous runner of the farm, previous manager of the farm, had some real problems trying to, keep everything ticking over. And as such, a lot of the land is in pretty bad condition. A lot of the fields are in desperate need of some TLC, with ploughing, and lime needs to be spread on the fields before we can actually even think about starting to do some planting. So a lot of work is required to turn around this sleepy little village farm into a successful sort of business again. It is set up for livestock as well. We do have a very nice sort of dairy facility here at the farm, and we also have a small sort of sheep area over there as well. So we will be looking to try and bring some livestock into the farm at some point in the future. It feels really good to be back in good old Blighty, back on English soil for the first time in a long time. We've kind of bounced around, all over the world, really. We've bounced around in South America, all throughout Europe, across America as well over the last couple of years, and we haven't really, done any farming here on home soil for a very, very long time. I think Sandy Bay was the last time I actually farmed on English soil, here on JBPG. So this is a really good kind of homecoming in a way for me. Back on, as I say, native ground, native soil. And we did look at a couple of other farms, in the past, with the chance to maybe set up here in the UK, but this is the first time we're actually going to put down roots down here, and we're going to run this farm for quite some time, I think. So let me give you a kind of an overview of everything that we have. Obviously, this is the little cottage that we're staying in just here. We do have a good spread of equipment here. The Hollisters had a little bit of equipment here on the farm, but they really did sink a bit of cash into it for us. We turned up with a little bit of money in our pockets and not much else. And the Hollisters have invested all the money that they had from getting rid of previous machinery and sunk an extra £500,000 into the farm as well for equipment. So the farm does have a £500,000 debt, which obviously is our responsibility to get paid off, seeing as we are running the farm. But we've had no grants, we've had no subsidies. This is this is the Hollisters' own money that has gone into this, and you can see the equipment that we have. We'll start off in this area here. We're going to end up using this, I think, probably as a bale shed, I think. We'll end up storing bales in here, ready for our livestock when we do get them. We've got ourselves a water trailer, which is temporarily living in here, but may well get moved. Just in here, you can see we have a food mixer as well, the Kuhn Knight food mixer just there. If we move around a little bit further, you can see obviously we have a grain trailer here, the Cramper Kipper Bandit 750 trailer, and we also have this Flegel animal trailer. We are, as I say, going to be trying to bring dairy into the farm as quickly as we can, and we're kind of set up with everything we need apart from the livestock itself and obviously a little bit of feed as well. We are kind of a little short for cash as well, so we may have to wait until we get our first round of crops sold off before we can afford to bring in some actual livestock. We'll have to see. In here you can see that we do have some grass working equipment as well. So we have the Lely Splendimo mower set, front mower and rear mowers. We have a Kuhn round baler with wrapper just there, as you can see, rocking the IntelliWrap system. We also have a Kuhn windrower and the Kuhn tedder just there. So this is our kind of grass working shed. Let's close those doors. And if we head up the hill past our sort of workshop area, this is where the rest of our equipment is. So this first double shed here, this is an equipment shed. There's not much in here at the moment because, obviously there is a limit to our budget as to just how much we can bring in. And this is this reflects the fact that we don't have a lot of equipment. You can see we have a couple of small plows in here, a weeder. We do have a Horsch Pronto seeder, and we also have this Bredel fertilizer spreader, which we'll be using for fertilizer and for lime as well. So we'll have to make sure that we give that a good rinse out every time we use it. If we switch over from lime to fertilizer, in fact, we need to leave that door open, don't we? There we go. And if we move over to our next shed, this is our sort of powered equipment shed, our vehicle shed. So we pop in here. This equipment was purchased from the nearby John Deere dealership, which is sort of just over there somewhere. And you can see that we have a John Deere combine, the T560i, along with matching header and also a trailer for that mounted as well. We have a 7R. This one here is a 7130, as you can see, so goes up to about 350 horsepower, very nice. And we also have a 6M as well, the 6155, which puts out, I think, around about 160 brake horsepower. And this one is also fitted with a front loader attachment, which is handy because we do have a front loader with some pallet forks, but we will be needing that for using sort of our bales a little bit as well, stacking some bales. We don't have a lot of stuff that we do potentially need. We don't have a bale trailer, so that could make moving bales a little bit tedious at first, but we can always lease one, I suppose, until we have enough money to buy one. And we do have, as I say, a lot of grass working equipment, so we could quite comfortably make some silage bales and sell those off at the barns to try and raise some extra cash for more equipment. As I say, the Hollisters have sunk an extra £500,000 into the farm on top of the money they raised from selling off previous equipment. So we do have £500,000 debt that is going to need to be serviced. I don't really want to try and saddle the farm with even more debt too early on. When we had our own farm in Felsbrunn, we kind of got into that vicious cycle of just constantly having to take out more money to try and advance the farm, and we never really managed to service the debt, and we ended up going bankrupt. So lessons have been learned from that, and we will certainly be taking heed of what happened to us in Europe as we return over here. The first thing we need to do is make sure that our fields are up and running as quickly as possible. So I'm going to jump into the 6M, take this over to the first of our fields and start ploughing away on there. As I say, all of our fields are in desperate need of attention. In fact, a lot of the fields in the area are in need of attention. There is another farm nearby, which is Thistle Farm, I think, Thistle Ridge Farm, and they too are having problems as well. So a lot of the land in this region is in pretty bad shape and is going to need a lot of work, and we may potentially end up acquiring some of Thistle Ridge's land as as we progress, and depends how good a job we do of our own land, I suppose. Let's find a spot to get this worker up and running. Get started on this really big field that we have just here. This one's going to take a very, very long time to plough, so the quicker we can get this one done, the better. Which way is our plough facing? It's the right way. That's good. So we are going to get some help, some workers to come and help us out in sorting out this farm here. You can see there is one of our workers jumping in for us, and he's going to start ploughing here. We're going to grab the 7R, and we're going to help do some ploughing in there as well. But I kind of want to give you a little bit of an overview of the land that we own as well. Obviously, we have this really, really big field just here, very, very big field. We also have a field just through here, and as I said, the previous farmer had some issues, and a lot of poorly maintained equipment meant that he wasn't able to actually bring in the previous crop here. You can see we have a barley crop that failed. This is a dead crop and needs to be removed before we can really do anything with this field. We do have another field in the distance over there as well, just sort of near the pond, which is, well, I say the pond, it's a mini lake really. It's Bow Lake. Over by Bow Lake there is another field that we own that is completely overgrown with weeds, and again is in desperate need of ploughing. So we will try and get to that at some point as well. And we do own a grass meadow as well, quite a big sized grass meadow, and that's going to be our kind of saviour when while we're first getting started, because the amount of work we're going to have to put in just to get our first crops in the ground is a lot. It's quite staggering just how much work we're going to have to do before we can even think about planting. There we go. I'm just going to drop the weight off. We don't need the weight on the front of our 7R here. So we'll just park that over here by our workshop area. Just drop that off just here, I think. There we go. And we'll just close up our shed doors. There we go. And I'll just pull up our PDA here for a second. Here you can see sort of a map of the area. So these are the fields that we own: field 1, 19, 18 and 15. Now 15, 18 and 1 are arable fields. 19 here is this sort of grass meadow. It's a really good sized meadow, and we're going to be doing some silage baling on this field just to kind of help make money, I suppose, until we can turn things around. And we're going to be playing Seasons Light on this playthrough. And I say Seasons Light, obviously we're still waiting for the Seasons mod. I think it could be quite some time before we do actually see Seasons make its way into Farming Simulator 19, or at least on console. It might come to PC a little bit quicker. And certainly I'm sure a few people will perhaps get beta test access to it at some point. But for us guys and gals on console, we're going to have to wait for the sort of official patch from Giants before that can be implemented in. So we're going to kind of try and replicate Seasons as best we can. So that means we'll be playing with crop growth turned off during the day. We'll get a little bit of growth overnight periodically. We will try and replicate the kind of play that happens with Seasons. So we'll have sort of a period at the beginning of the cycle where we don't really do much other than just sort of tending the fields. Then we'll do some grass work and some fertilizing. Then we'll have our harvests. Then we'll have a kind of a reset point at the end of that cycle where we look at maybe bringing in new equipment or livestock, and then we'll start that whole cycle again and try and give it a little bit of spacing to try and, as I say, replicate the feel of Seasons as best we can until we actually do get the proper Seasons mod. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be a challenge, especially when you get a real sense of just how big this field is. You know, we aren't overabundant or overburdened with choices for some of our groundwork equipment. You know, we have either very small or very large, and very little in between in terms of sort of size against power requirements. And we don't have massively powerful equipment. So we've got a 7R that can do up to about 350 horsepower or so, and we've got a 6M which is only about 160 horsepower. So we have to be very careful with our sort of equipment choices. We can't be pulling around these 400 plus horsepower requiring pieces of equipment, because our poor little 7R just won't be able to cope with it, and it'll take us forever to do anything. We'll be crawling along at the tiniest of tiny speeds. As we progress the farm and we make money, we can look at bringing in something like an 8R, maybe even an 8RT. We'll see how that goes, but for now we're kind of, as I say, a little limited on some of the choices that we go with in terms of equipment. So it'd be really nice to have quite a big plough, but the kind of power required, and also given the way some of these fields are right up against hedges, there just isn't the turning space for some of those larger bits of equipment, or the larger turn radius ploughs. It's going to make working some of our fields a little bit awkward, so we are going to have to go with the smaller equipment option, more than I would like, I suppose. But again, without having some of those mods that we loved in Farming Sim 17, that kind of sat in that mid-range, especially things like the ploughs, where we had the straight ploughs and the 6-meter Weber plough and the 8-meter or just over 8-meter Eco Till and things like that. We're missing all of those right now. We don't have any of those. We kind of, it's either a 2.5-meter plough or a very long, unwieldy 5-meter plough. So we're going with 2.5-meter ploughs, and there isn't really anything in the middle. There's no 3 or 4-meter option. It's one, or it's small or big, and nothing in between. So it's going to be a challenge this first year on the farm. We'll see how we do, and then hopefully at the end of year 1 we can add to, maybe upgrade some of our equipment a little bit. We'll see how we do, but I'm going to crack on because we have an awful lot of ploughing to do, as you can see. A big field. It's going to take us a very long time to get this done, so I'll crack on and I'll catch up with you guys in a little while. So we've kicked on about 2.5 hours or so, and we've done a fair bit of ploughing. Not massive amounts. There's only so much you can cover per pass with a small plough like this. So you can see there is our 6M there, running slightly slower. It's perhaps a fraction underpowered for the plough that it's pulling. But you can see we've almost kind of cleaned off this side section over here. And what we'll do is, once we've done this, is we'll go and clear off the very big side section over on the other side of where the 6M's been ploughing over there, and leave the 6M to just kind of work this middle territory between where we are and where it is right now. A kind of strip of land over there. We'll let the 6M deal with that, and we'll deal with all the fiddly stuff around the edges of the fields, because it does get quite fiddly in parts on this field. But yeah, it's gone 10:30. It was just around about 8 o'clock last time we checked in, so we're 2.5 hours in or further in, and still a long way to go on this field. It's going to take most, if not all, of the day to get this field done, I think. It'd be nice if we could get a second field done today. I don't think we're really going to have the time unless we work through the night, and don't necessarily want to do that. So we'll see. We'll keep pushing on. We'll work hard, see how much progress we can make, and who knows, maybe we will be able to end up getting a second field, if not done, at least maybe started. We'll see how we get on with that. We do have to lime all of our fields after we've ploughed them, don't forget, as well, before we can even think about seeding. So still a lot of work to do on this field, regardless of how long it takes us to plough it. We've still got all that liming that's going to need to be done as well, and that'll be the same, as I say, for our other fields. Try and get this bit done. I've actually missed a couple of spots. I'm going to just go back and rerun this edge here. We drifted in too much. There we go. Make sure that we don't leave any gaps. And just grab that bit just there. We may as well finish this little corner piece off here before we head back down again. In fact, actually, no, we'll head back down. We'll do these smaller bits first, and then we'll go back and finish that top corner. Because that's going to take a little bit longer to get done, I think. See, we've got a hot air balloon kind of up in the air at the moment over there. There is a local hot air balloon ride company that operates in the area, and they do their balloon tours. So we will see that balloon quite often as it slowly meanders its way over the farm. There is also a sort of a military flight path in the area. There's no immediately close RAF base to Marwell, but there is a few sort of military areas. There is a sort of an army training base near Winchester. There is over at Salisbury. There's an RAF control tower over there. Salisbury is sort of a little bit to the west of where we are now. But every now and again we will get the odd military jet sort of do a flyby, and you'll know when that happens if you haven't seen it already. It actually brings back a lot of memories whenever I do hear that jet fly back. It reminds me a lot of my childhood. I have grandparents who live in Herefordshire, and they live just outside Credden Hill in Herefordshire. Now, Credden Hill is a small village that is home to an SAS training facility, an SAS training barracks. But at the time, back in the 80s, when I used to go there every summer to my grandparents, it was an RAF base, and I would often, be out playing in the back garden and hear these, usually a pair of jets just go screaming overhead on training manoeuvres, from taking off from literally 2 miles away at Credden Hill, which was at the time, as I say, an RAF base, and then into the 90s I think it became an SAS base. There's famously a scene, I think the movie was Ronin, where Sean Bean is trying to blag it that he's ex-SAS, and Robert De Niro is having none of it, because he instinctively knows that Sean Bean is full of it, and so he starts grilling him. It's like, what colour is the boathouse at the docks at Hereford? And of course, Robert De Niro has no idea that it's not Hereford. It's Hereford, not Hereford. And he just keeps calling it Hereford in the movie. Always remember that. And he's talking about Credden Hill. He's talking about the RAF base, which became an SAS base at Credden Hill in Hereford, or Herefordshire. It's a few miles outside of Hereford. So little nostalgia trip. Every time I hear that jet go screaming by, reminds me of growing up in the 80s, visiting grandparents who lived near an RAF base, and standing there just watching and hearing those jets go screaming by, more often than not on a nearly daily basis during the summers. Okay, so we have done the fiddly bits along the side. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the fiddly bit along the bottom. So we're going to run the edge of the field. We'll loop back. We'll do 2 or 3 passes, because our workers just do not like going all the way to the very edge, because it's so close, not just to the fence, the hedge, which you can drive through, but the actual physical border of the map is pretty much the other side of the hedge. So the tractor will just stop instantly as it hits that boundary and turn around. It can't quite do the full pass. So we'll manually kind of fill this section in along here. We'll do 2, as I say, or 3 passes. And then when we've done that, what we're going to do is, you can see if you remember when we started the 6M, we started right in the corner of the field, and now we've got this huge open space up here on this side where there isn't at the other end. The field kind of tapers a little bit on this side, so we'll be working that section and leaving the nice, easy, straightforward up and down section for the 6M, which is, as I say, slightly underpowered, so it's slightly smoother ground as well. It's slightly more level ground, so it should be a slightly quicker and easier job for the 6M than doing this weird fiddly bit, and we can deal with this more comfortably ourselves manually in the 7R. So that's one pass. There we go. Let's turn our plough. And go back again the other way. See, that balloon has moved on quite a bit. It does just kind of sneak up on you and then it's gone before you even realise it. A bird coming in for a crash landing there. Maybe he's looking for worms, who knows. We might be able to do, to get away with just 2 passes actually. We'll see what it's like as we get further down the field. We might not need to do a 3rd pass. Almost done. Yeah, I think we can get away with just 2 passes. I don't think we're going to need a 3rd one. The second one really is just making sure that everything is actually nice and properly covered. So let's lift our plough. And we'll make our way over to this side. And start running here. So time is now what, 11:30. We still got an awful lot to go. I can't see us getting another field done today. I think we'll just about manage to get this one done, and that's going to be it. But we'll see how long it takes us. I'll crack on with this, and I'll catch up with you again in a little while longer. So we've been ploughing for around about 7 hours or so now, and we are nearly halfway through the field. It's big. It's taking a long time to get this field done, but it needs to be done, and this is the only time we're going to need to do it for quite some time. So once we have ploughed this, we probably won't have to plough it again for several harvests, I would imagine. Still have to lime it, and obviously we'll have to do that after every 3 harvests, but depending on the crops that we plant, and we're probably not going to be doing much in terms of row crops for a while at the very least. A, we don't have the right header for our combine. B, we don't have a planter that can plant row crops, and to get a decent size one of those is going to cost us a fair bit of cash that we just don't have available yet. We're going to be going through wheat, barley, canola, and oats, maybe soybean. So we've got plenty of grains that we can make some money off of without the need to sort of worry about having to plough the fields again. So it's a lot of work to get us up and running, but once we are up and running, we're not going to have to worry about it again for a very long time, or at least that's the kind of the plan and the hope. And who knows, by then maybe we'll be in a position where we can look at getting a bigger, more longer plough, a more powerful tractor to pull it more comfortably. We'll have different options available to us. who knows, maybe there'll be a better selection of equipment which will speed that process up. And we could always look at maybe going down the subsoiler route in the future as well. That might be something we could look at doing, just switching out our plows and replacing them with maybe even just a 4-meter subsoiler. Obviously it's very difficult to use a subsoiler on a field that's already kind of cultivated, because you can never really tell where it is that you've been. It makes it quite tricky to make sure that you are actually working the area that you need to work. But going forward, that won't be an issue. We can subsoil after we've harvested, and it'll be a very clean and easy way to see what has been worked and what hasn't been worked. Trying to cultivate on a field that is cultivated is always very, very tough to see what you've done and what you still need to do without constantly having to sort of refer to the mini maps, which is something I don't like to do unless I absolutely have to. So yeah, going forward we'll have better options. This first round of harvest, this first round of ploughing that has to be done is going to have to be done with ploughs, because our other fields are both also cultivated. Or, well, let's say we can get away with maybe getting a subsoiler for field 15, but field 1 is also cultivated. It has a lot of weeds on it, but it's cultivated. And again, a worker just won't work a cultivator on a cultivated field. So it just does mean a very long, slow, drawn-out process for this first round of ploughing. The ploughs are going to be taking a bit of a battering as well. Their values are already down to below 10,000. So they are going to be worth very little, I think, by the time we come to get rid of them. But hopefully, replacing them with a subsoiler or two won't be too expensive, and it'll certainly be a little bit quicker to work the ground with a subsoiler as well. Not just in the wider working width, but the operating speed will be faster. We can hopefully get up to, say, maybe 10 miles an hour, as opposed to kind of trundling along at 6 and 7, depending on whether we're using the 7R or the 6M. So just to get even an extra couple of mile an hour is going to be a big difference. But when you factor in the extra 1.5 meters working width as well, that combination means we'll be able to turn these fields over so much faster going forward. And I think possibly I might have left a bit of a strip all the way down the centre of that pass there. Might have to double check and see just whether I need to go back over that later. Let's just get going here. Let's just take a look at the minimap. You can see that's where we are right now. That's how much of the field we have done. This sort of area here, you can see the lime requirement, and then obviously these red patches. So we're about halfway through the field, I would say, maybe halfway through. Obviously this is a big chunk here. This is a big chunk of field, and that kind of is about matching that. This looks quite big. It's a little bit more than this, but again, we've got a little bit of extra land over here that kind of makes up for some of this over here. So we're not quite at the halfway stage, but we're not far off. But given that it is now, 2:45 in the afternoon, we're looking at a very late finish. We're probably looking at around about 10 o'clock at night, I think, by the time this field will be done, which is, a lot longer than I thought it would take to get this field ploughed. I was hoping we could be done by around about 8, 9 o'clock at the latest. I think we're looking at 10, possibly even 11 o'clock at night before we get this done. So this is pretty much going to be everything for day one, just this field, because it is so big. But moving on to day 2, we can think about where we're going to work. I think I might possibly do... Let's see, do I do field 15 or do I field 1 next? I might do field 1 next. Again, it's a relatively squarish kind of field. It might be easier for us to work that. I'll have to think about it. 15 shouldn't be too difficult to work either. 15 might be easier to work. I might do 15 next. We've got to get rid of that old withered crop and plough that in to the field. I'm just trying to think, you know, given the size of that field, we're not going to be able to get both of them done in one day. You never know, maybe. If we can get field 18 done in one day, we might possibly be able to get 15 and 1 done in a second day. We might have to start very, very early to get that done. We might be talking starting at as early as like 5:30, 6 in the morning. I mean, we didn't really get underway with the ploughing till gone 7 this morning, around about 7:30. So that extra hour could be crucial. It means that we might possibly just be able to squeeze both 15 and 1 into a single day. That would be helpful if we can. The longer we go without actually doing any money-making work, i.e., getting crop in the ground and getting that prepped, or doing grass work on field 19, the faster our remaining money is going to disappear and dwindle away, and the faster we're going to start running at a negative balance. We've still got our daily costs to go out at midnight as well every day, don't forget, and our loan interest. So we need to get into a position where we can start making money very quickly. We do have everything that we need to make money. It's just getting these fields turned over this first time. Once they're ready for us to actually start planting, we'll be in a healthy position. And once they're planted and the crops start to grow, then we can start doing some grass work on 19. We can start making some silage bales, and we can start clearing the operating debt we're going to have, and then look at servicing our loan debt as well, and start reducing that a little bit. But it's going to get tight around the waist. We're going to have to really tighten our belts and suffer a little bit for this first round of fields, and then after that things will become more comfortable, and we can look at starting to get some dairy livestock onto the farm and get our dairy operation up and running. So I'll carry on ploughing away, and I'll give you another update a little bit later. Just gone 7 in the evening now. Sun is starting to set. It's casting some lovely shadows and a sort of a warm glow across the field here. And from some angles, these green John Deere tractors do look very special indeed. Others then, not quite so much. But from this side, with the sun shining on the side of it, it just looks great, doesn't it? So we've still got a fair old chunk of the field left to do, and these shadows are making it a little bit harder to see in certain parts of the field, as you can see. At the end of a pass, when we get to this corner, it gets very, very dark and we can't really see what we're doing. And I've been trying to speed things up a little bit by manually turning each of the tractors so they don't overlap quite so much, and we can plough on at a slightly faster rate. Just take control of the 6M as it turns around here. Flip the plough. There we go. So this is where we are right now in terms of how much still needs to be done. It's not a huge amount left, as you can see. Just a couple of little spots that have been missed as well. Just a couple of spots there. One spot just over here. And then just, I think, a little spot just over here as well. Look, so tiny little things that we can tidy up at the very, very end. But apart from that, we're cracking on at a good rate of speed. There's not too much left to go. It's still looking at, I would say, at least a 10 o'clock finish, maybe 11. We'll push on as hard and as fast as we can. Try and make sure that we are done as early as possible. Another long day of ploughing ahead of us tomorrow. And then after that we'll need to line the fields, and then we'll finally be ready to able to start to start seeding our fields and get our first crops in the ground. So a lot of work still involved. You can see the moon just starting to come up as well, just over there. Sun setting just over there in the distance, and the light is fading. It's starting to fade quite rapidly now as well. Let's take a look at the 7 hour, and again you can see just how dark it's starting to get around here. A little bit tricky to see what we're doing in certain places on the fields, but the really awkward bit along here is now done. So we've got a relatively sort of straightforward section just here to work with now, where we're just going to be going up and down in this little sort of section here. That's probably the biggest bulk of the tricky stuff left. I mean, that is just there where the 6M is. This is just a straightforward patch, and as soon as one of these is done, we can, well, it's probably with the 7R that finishes first, we can get that to come and help out over here as well, and get this last little section done a little bit quicker. So as I say, a lot more work still to go. Time is ticking on, the sun is setting, it's getting dark, and I think we've probably got at least another 2.5 hours of ploughing to go. So I'll carry on with that, and I'll see you again in a little while. 7:30, and it's got so dark the lights now have to be on for us to be able to see what we're doing. It's amazing how dark it can get, how, you know, in a very, very short space of time. It only seems like a few moments ago that we had, you know, decent working light. I mean, it was getting a bit rough in some of the shadows, but look how dark it is now. It's just a few minutes later. It's, you know, without the lights it would be almost impossible to see a thing, as you'll see actually. Let me just turn the lights off. Look how dark it is now. You can't see the ground at all. It's crazy. So the light has disappeared so fast. I thought it might be a little bit later than this before that happened, but yeah, there we go. 7:30, lights switched on. It's coming up on 9 o'clock. It is pitch black now. You can see there was a bit of a glow in the background from the moon there, but everywhere else, dark and dark and dark. Very, very hard to see anything. We're almost done with this side little panel over here. The 6M still faithfully plodding up and down the field. I can't even see the headlights. It's somewhere over there. There it is. Nope, that's the placeables, where you can get the seed and fertilizer and stuff. It's somewhere on the field, the 6M, plodding up and down. It's a little out of our draw distance, I think. Let's have a look. It should be sort of alongside us, so yeah, just cannot see him anywhere at all on there. But he is running up and down in that central section. This side piece almost done. You can see this is what's left now, just this kind of bit here. So this is getting shorter and shorter with every single pass. So pretty soon we'll be able to move the 7R over, start working on that central column that's left in the centre of the field. Let's get that little bit that we missed there. There we go. So not too much left on the field, but you know, I did say I was looking at between 10 and 11 for a finish. It's just gone 9 o'clock now, and you can see still a little way to go. So 11 o'clock is definitely ringing as though that's going to be definitely sort of ringing true as our predicted kind of finish time. It may possibly even push on somewhere between 11 and midnight. No, I really don't want to be working that late if at all possible, because as I say, another very long day of ploughing ahead of us tomorrow as well. But we've got to get this done, you know, and I don't want to leave the field in a semi-ploughed state. I'd rather get it all done in one sitting, and then, you know, this job is done and we don't have to worry about it again. So we'll see where we end up. Let's get this little bit here. There we go, and spin around, turn our plough somewhere There it is. It's getting harder and harder to see where we need to actually plough as well. I just missed a bit just there, look, by the look of it. There we go. So, just another, what, 2, maybe 3 little runs on this side piece here, and then, as I say, we'll be finished on this tricky section, and we'll have a nice, easy up and down to finish the field off. It's been a very monotonous task today, getting all this ploughing done, but it is an absolutely essential task. As I say, the field's in a terrible state when we took over. You know, pretty much all the fields in desperate need of a plough. They haven't been ploughed for a long time. So all those nutrients to help the crops and boost the yields, you know, way down in the soil, need to be kind of turned up a little bit. And the soil also quite tough as well, needs to be loosened up a bit. It's definitely a thankless task, ploughing all these fields like this, but as I say, hopefully once these are ploughed, we won't have to worry about ploughing them for, you know, multiple harvests. And it's probably not until we start working with row crops that we're going to have to worry about it. At some point, I would perhaps like to work with sunflowers. We do know that sunflowers can give a pretty good yield and are worth pretty decent money. But of course we will have to plough after pretty much every harvest, I think, with sunflowers. Same with potatoes, beets. I mean, those obviously they're a long way off because we need specialised equipment for those, not just in terms of the harvesting equipment, but, you know, topping, even the planters for potatoes. We need a specialist planter just for the potatoes as well. So we haven't got to worry about root crops for quite some time. Corn and sunflowers, something I would like to get into sooner rather than later. The money that we're going to need for a planter for row crops, quite expensive. It's just money we don't have, and I want to get dairy up and running before we even think about, you know, branching out towards sunflowers and corn. So it's going to be quite a while, I think, before we move on to those crops. We'll be sticking with, you know, wheat, barley, canola, soybean, and oats for quite some time, I think. But there's 5 different crops that we can play around with, so we can rotate our crops. We don't have to just do the same crop every time over and over again. It gives us a nice little bit of balance, a nice little bit of variation, and stops us from, you know, over flooding the market as well, so our prices don't stagnate. We'll have you know, some good healthy, you know, income from our crops. Almost done with this section, just another couple of little bits. Just kind of want this little bit to be done so I can move on to that final section in the centre of the field, because with the 7R working alongside the 6M, that'll get done really quickly. But this is fiddly because it's short little runs and having to turn and rotate the plough. You know, it just eats up available time. We're approaching 9:30 already, look. Time is definitely escaping from us. 11 o'clock is marching up on us very, very quickly. And like I say, I really don't want to have to go past 11 o'clock if at all possible. I'd rather be kind of getting ready to tuck myself in for the night. Still need to make sure that our equipment is cleaned and put away once we're done as well. So just getting the ploughing done is not the end. You know, there's still a little bit of work that still needs to be done as well. You know, both ploughs will need to be cleaned, put away, probably even given a little bit of a tinker ready for the morning. Although we might possibly just tune the ploughs in the morning. Depends what time we get done. The tractor's definitely going to need a clean, and you can see we've actually put, you know, a fair few hours on the 7R as well. We've put over 3 hours on this just running up and down here. The 6M will have a similar number of hours on that as well. So already we're starting to put a little bit of a toll on our equipment. have been kind of just maintaining the plows while I've been working, you know, fixing them on the fly kind of thing, just giving a little bit of a tune-up here and there to try and keep the operating speeds at maximum wherever possible. We've only had a couple of minor little dips, and there we go. This is the final long pass. We've just got that little corner section back at the beginning of this road to do, and then we are done on this side piece. There we go. So let's lift the plough. Let's do this little end section that we missed. Where is it? Can't even see where it is. Oh, here we go. Drop the plough down. Hopefully one pass will get it all. Yes, it will. There we go. Excellent stuff. So, let's go find an edge to work on. Make our way to the bottom of the field. It's somewhere. It's somewhere down here. It's a big old field. There we go. Let's see if we can figure out how much is left by where the rows finish. So there, through to there. So not too much left to go. Let's start here. So we can kind of split this section in half a little bit. There we go. We just have to make sure that this turns to the left at the top of the field. So, almost done, and I'll catch up with you as we're just about finishing off. And there we go, 11 o'clock. The day is over. Well, the day's been over for a while, but the kind of time window I had allotted for ploughing is pretty much over. And we have just about managed to get it done. I'm on the final pass with the 7R here, and there is one final pass that the 6M is going to need to do, which will put it back at that end of the field. But essentially, the ploughing is now finished. It's taken a long time, a very long time. Well, let's see. Say we started at, say, half past 7 in the morning. That's that's what, 15 and a half hours or so that we've been ploughing. That's a lot of ploughing, and we've got to do it all over again tomorrow. But this field now pretty much is finally finished. So what I'm going to do is leave the 6M to just do that final strip. There you can see he's on his way up the field one last time. We're almost at the bottom of the field. We're going to clean off the plough and the 7R, put those back in the shed, and then we'll do the same with the 6M, get everything locked up and turn in for the night. Been a very, very long, very hard and difficult first day, but we have got through it. We have finally achieved everything that we needed to get done over here on that particular field, ploughing wise. So I've got a pressure washer somewhere. There it is. Let's just jump out, get the torch on so we can see what we're doing. Give the plough a quick clean. I actually thought the plough would be a bit dirtier than this. She held up remarkably well. There we go, and obviously the 7R, a fair bit of dirt on the 7R as well. Get that cleaned off. And around this sort of wheel arch area and below the exhaust, there we go. That's the last of the dirt coming off. Ploughs go in this shed. Door's a little bit temperamental. There we go. I'll drop that just there. Let's make it a little bit easier for us to grab it in the morning, so it's not quite so tight against the wall. And let's get the 7R put away. I'm not quite going to make that. I don't want to crash this thing into the side of the building. That would be expensive. There we go. So that's the 7R locked away for the night. Oop, I left the lights on. There we go. Let's go grab the 6M, get that cleaned and put away, and turn in for the night. The end of a very, very long day, but as you can see now, just need to lime this field and it is good to go. So I might possibly lime this field tomorrow while the other tractor, while the 7R is ploughing. We'll see how that goes, but we'll get the 6M cleaned, put away. Oh, there goes one of those jets that I was telling you about on a military flyover. And I will see you in the morning. Thanks for watching. I'm Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more Marwell Manor very soon.